How do you question everything without living in conflict? This is a great question. It's in reference to something I said in one of my Creator's Journey calls. And it's pointing out the idea that I question everything as like a philosophical stance. Living with the capacity for doubt creates a freedom and a flexibility in all things. I'm never trapped in an idea. I actually like to say that truth is a prison. It's a liberating prison. Truth is a liberating prison. When you get to truth, when you can find something that's true, you experience like a burst of freedom. And yet that new truth is also a trap, right? Because it's a limitation, it's a constraint. Any idea that's fixed is a constraint. It's both. But how do you move through the world in a way where you're constantly questioning everything and not have your mind constantly living in conflict because you're always questioning everything? Is it this or is it that? First and foremost, my capacity to be this way, I think, comes from growing up with a scientific mind, or being scientifically minded, learning the scientific method, essentially, which is essentially nothing is ever considered absolutely true, right? Even a scientific theory is like, because we haven't disproven it yet. Newton was true until Einstein came along, but it was like, and I think the average person who doesn't grow up studying science and really learning and applying the scientific method at least forgets that from grade school or high school or wherever you learn the scientific method first. If you don't stick in it at a university level, I don't know, maybe you just don't think about everything that way all the time. And maybe you don't remember that things aren't actually true forever in an absolute sense. It's a philosophical stance. It's like a metaphysics of science, right? Even the law. It's not necessarily, scientists don't see the laws of physics as immutable. They see them as yet to be disproven. But there's something, but right there in that is the answer, right? The law of gravity is pretty much one of the strongest truths we've got, right? We're not like walking off buildings. And yet there are still people that are out there trying to disprove gravity, working on different theories, looking for ways to break the model, to break the idea as an absolute, like gravity always is. But in some sense, Einstein has already broken that with his like general relativity and showing how gravity is theoretically curved space-time. So in any case, but my point is that there's a way of living in the world as if something is true because that's the most useful and convenient way to be with it, while still maintaining the philosophical stance and capacity that nothing is absolute and everything can be questioned. I think that's an important point too. Just because I can question everything doesn't mean that I have to question everything, and it doesn't mean that I am questioning everything. I do question everything means that I have a willingness and a capacity to question everything. I could question my marriage, right? But I don't as a practice, because the fruit of not questioning it is great, is abundant, is beautiful. And if it got to the point where there was no fruit, but it would have to be a long period of time where there was no fruit and no abundance. And I was already looking at like, how am I creating that lack of abundance? How am I not watering the garden of my marriage? But if it happened long enough, then I would be willing to question my marriage and question my commitment. It's not the first place that I would go. Questioning, I think that's another point. Knowing that I can and do and will question everything doesn't mean that's my first go-to. It's my first go-to is, actually, how do I know? Well, my first go-to is love. What is it that I love? What is it that I most love? If I love this and it's there and I engage with it and I continue to engage with it and I have a consistency. Love is primary. Questioning things is not primary. Truth is not primary. Love is primary. So if love is consistent and there's no reason to question something and I just keep going with it, but if love brings me to something that is bumping up against a truth, then guess what? I'm going to bring out the questioning guns and I'm going to question that truth so that love can permeate and penetrate in that direction, whatever that is. So that's, it's just a value choice. For me to choose love as the guiding principle is a value choice. I choose love over truth, and questioning is my tool. And sometimes I need to break through a truth of the question if it's in service of love and freedom. So those two things, freedom and love, are my highest values. They're my guiding principles. And I will question something if it is, whatever that idea is, getting in the way of freedom of love. If not, I'm probably not going to question it. Why want to mess shit up? Things are going good. I'm free. I'm feeling love. I'm guided. No point in questioning this. And yeah, there isn't really conflict. I'm also okay with conflict. I see internal conflict as the dance of being. I see the juxtaposition of opposites and the holding of counterpoints in mind as that which creates the equilibrium of being. So I'm also okay with that. And so that may be something of a qualitative difference too, because when we don't have an issue with having an issue, it's much less of an issue internally. I'm happy to be sad. I'm happy to be afraid. And so when I have sadness or have fear, it's okay. I'm just having it. I'm experiencing it. It's okay. So there's an answer. Thanks for listening. Thanks for asking. I love you and talk to you soon.